Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. Today, we're going to talk about finances, personal finances, our views and our ideas about spending, investing, saving, right? And we're going to focus especially on the intergenerational differences. What does that mean? Well, we have a lot of different generations alive right now. We have millennials, right? So I'm a millennial. I was born between 1981 and 1996. I was born in 1985. So I'm a millennial. Then we have Generation Alpha, right? Alpha. So they are born after, well, actually starting in 2013. So 2013 up to the present, they are Generation Alpha. Then we have Generation Z, right? They were born between 1997 and 2012. We're going to talk a lot about Generation Z, right? Because they're coming of age right now, right? So they are right now in their 20s, probably, or in their teens, right? Or maybe even their late childhood. So they're going to be teens soon, right? So we're looking at, you know, um, an important generation right now that's coming of age, right? Yeah, the baby boomers. My parents are baby boomers. These people were born between 1946 and 1964. And then we have Gen X. Right? Generation X was born between 1965 and 1980. Right? So we have all of these different generations. And all of them lived, had different experiences. They lived through different times. So their relationship with money is different. And that's what we're going to talk about. So in our Zoom class, so if you're listening to this podcast and you want to practice, you want to talk to me, you want to talk to other advanced speakers, then send me a message right now and we can talk about you joining some of the live conversation classes. Because, I have some conversation classes where you get to speak to a lot of people. We have one-to-one. So you speak to a lot of people and you're always speaking. So a lot of speaking practice on Zoom. It's online, people from all over the world, and you get to speak. So everyone's advanced. So it's only for advanced or upper intermediate students. So if you're a beginner, this is not the best for you. But if you're intermediate, or actually upper intermediate or advanced, then this is the program for you. You get to talk a lot, you get to express yourself, you get to use the English that you know. All right, so first of all, the first question is you're going to ask your partner, which generation do you belong to? If you belong to a generation, you are part of it. I'm a millennial, right? Because, they call millennials because we were coming of age. We were becoming adults at the turn of the millennium in the year 2000. So in the year 2000, we were teenagers, or maybe kids. We were children, right? So that's why we're called millennials. Now, what do you associate with these generations? So every generation has their stereotypes, right? So for example, baby boomers, right? My parents are baby boomers. Well, baby boomers lived in a very interesting time, at least in America. I'm from the US, and I can tell you that baby boomers, when they were growing up, there was so much money in America. Everything was booming. It was cheap. So you can pretty much pay off a big house in about 7 years with decent income, normal income. You could pay off your house in about 7 years. You could have a one income a one income household, meaning you only need one person to be working. So the mom or the dad, of course, it was mostly the dad, but the dad worked, the mom stayed at home. They could have 3, 4 kids, have 2 cars, have a big house with a backyard, be able to go out and eat a lot in restaurants, travel, a couple trips, 2 or 3, nice trips a year, a lot of gifts for Christmas, nice things. You could own nice things. And right now, that's not possible. Even people with, good incomes, they're still struggling. They can't save. Everything is expensive, right? So that's what I associate with baby boomers, for example, right? Generation Z, they're one generation after us. So, we say that they're, kind of, they grew up with phones and with the internet. So they're completely connected to the internet. Millennials, I was a kid with, when the internet came out. So I grew up with the internet, but I'm not dominated by the internet. Meaning, you know, I, uh, you know, I prefer to have face-to-face conversations. Of course, I'm kind of an influencer. I do a lot of social media stuff. I do podcasts. I do a lot of things. So, you know, I'm very much connected to the digital world, but I'm still, not fully in the digital world. So that's, but Generation Z, their life is on the internet. Everything is on the internet. All their friends are on the internet. They talk to people on the internet. They live on the internet, right? So we're going to continue because I don't want to give you too much of my information. I want you guys to learn some of these terms. The important thing is what approach. So when it's an approach, it's how they see it, how they deal with it. So what approach to spending, saving, and investing? So of course, very simple. You know what this is. Spending. When you spend your money, you buy things. Right? You buy things, you pay your bills, you spending, saving, right? So saving is you keep some money on the side, for emergencies or for, later on in life, right? And investing is when you want your money to grow. So you want $1 to become $3 or $10 or $10,000, depending on your risk tolerance, which is a great word. How much risk are you willing to take? All right. So, what approach to spending, saving, and investing does your generation have compared to other generations? Well, I'll answer this very quickly for you guys because I know you're curious, and you want to know what I think. So, I'm a millennial. Now, I went to university between 2004 and 2008. So I graduated, and right when I was starting my professional life, the Great Recession, the great financial collapse of 2007, 2008 happened. And I studied business. So, in school, they taught me all these things. Oh, wow, the economy is so perfect. And oh, wow, there will never be another crash. There will never be another real estate crash, another stock market crash. The system is perfect. Well, when I graduated and I passed all of my tests and I thought I knew everything, the house of cards collapsed. I was very disappointed, and I realized that it's a rigged game, right? It's not it's not what they teach you in school. This is, this whole financial system and the economy, it's a big casino, kind of, right? I respect it. I respect it. I respect the institutions, everything. But, what you learn in school, all the textbooks, all the traditional things, they don't help normal people. People have, if you do what everyone else does, you're not going to win. If you want to win, you need to do something different. So that's my approach to spending, right? So I grew up, in my 20s. I had the great recession. Then the rest of the 20s were good, right? There was a big boom. Stock market rallied. And there was crypto. There was a lot of things with a lot of money. And then, the current situation, happened, whatever you want to call that, just crisis after crisis after crisis, COVID, whatever you think about that, the energy crisis, inflation, the, currency, wars and all of these things, right? So in my 20s, big crisis, 30s, big crisis. So I believe in spending the least amount of money as possible, really taking care of the spending. I don't believe in saving because of inflation. I don't trust that the government will protect the value of the currency. So actually saving, you're just losing money. You're just losing money with inflation. So really, it's good to have an emergency fund. And I do have, a little bit of money on the side for emergencies and for whatever happens, right? But, just to put my money in the bank, and trust that they will keep it safe, not really. Maybe in the future, but right now, it really is. It's hard to trust them. Now, investing, like I told you, I do believe in investing. I love crypto. A lot of you know that I like, these digital assets. I like the digital asset class because I believe in blockchain technology. I think it's going to change the world. And I think that investing in technology that has a practical practical application, that's a great word, and a future. Technologies that are going to change the world will, will be good, are good investments. If you invested in Amazon, Amazon changed the world. It changed shopping. It changed, how people, buy things online. Well, actually, how they buy things in general. So investing in Amazon in the early 2000s was a very wise choice. Now, people say, oh, well, I missed Amazon, but there are some new opportunities. Every generation has opportunities for investing. And I believe that blockchain is that opportunity right now. Right now, this is the opportunity that we have, just like people in the 2000s had the opportunity to make money investing in Amazon and Google, in Facebook, in all the tech stocks. All right, so here are some opinions related to spending, saving, and investing money, right? And we're going to talk about these. So when the economic situation worsens, when it becomes worse, right? When it deteriorates, people should become more frugal. The key word is here is frugal, and cut back on many things. So when you become frugal, you don't want to spend money. You are frugal. You don't spend, right? You take care of your money and you cut back. When you cut back, it means you spend less, right? You spend less money. You cut back. Okay. Very important. Number two, it's always safer to shun a savings account and store cash under the mattress. All right. So this was, in the past, we had a lot of that. Right now, there's less of that, but I know a lot of people that, they don't trust the banks. They know that one day they could go to the bank and the bank will be like, sorry, I don't have your money. And so people, when you shun, it means that you avoid, right? You don't, you go around it. You don't do it. So if you shun a savings account, it means that you don't open a savings account, right? You don't go to the bank. You don't trust the bank to keep your money safe. You shun it. You avoid the savings account and you keep your money in cash under the mattress at home. Risky, but there's risk in every situation. In the modern world, no one should be wary of stocks and investing as it's the safest way to get rich. All right, so wary of is when you don't trust. If you don't trust, or if you don't trust completely in something. All right, so some generations, they just believe in the stock market like religiously. They say, just put money in the stock market. it's going to grow. No matter what happens in the world, it is going to grow. Now, that's true. A lot of people do have that. And so some people, I would say maybe maybe the baby boomers or Generation X, the ones born between 1965 and 1980, they got rich with the stock market. It just went straight up. Actually, after 1981, it went straight up pretty much. So they believe in the stock market. And for them, it was the easiest way to get rich is just put all your money in the stock market. Now it could be different. It could be different. Next one. The only thing banks can help you with is racking up debt that you'll be paying off forever. So a lot of people think this. So what does racking up debt just means? Adding and adding, continuing to add, continuing to increase, to accumulate. So you rack up debt. Remember, debt, the B is silent. It's when you borrow money. Okay, so you go to the bank lends you money and you borrow money. You are racking up debt. Great vocabulary word. So, people nowadays, they think the banks just want for you to get into debt. Just borrow money that you'll never be able to pay off. And that's their business. Okay. And of course, if you get into money, modern money mechanics and the creation of money, which this is not, I don't want to get into that because then I'll be speaking for about 3 hours. But, the way money is created nowadays is with debt. People say, oh, there's a limited amount of money. But when you borrow money, money is created. So money is created by the banks when you borrow money. Okay. And, in banks, typically they would need to have a reserve, it's called the fractional reserve system where you'd need to keep about 10% of the money, right? Like of the reserves, right? So you can lend 90% as long as you have 10% in your reserves. So that's the general idea, right? But basically, debt is the most important thing in our financial system. Next one, after being hard hit by events like a pandemic, recession, or inflation, people tend to change the way they treat money. So when you are hard hit, you are affected, and you are badly affected, right? So whenever there is a big crisis, whenever people are hard hit, for example, the pandemic, the recession, the inflation, whatever it is, right? Whatever big event that was that affected people, people change how they see and how they treat money. Like my grandparents, they grew up in the Great Depression, not the Great Recession of 2008, the Great Depression. And that was in the 1930s, right? And there was no money. Everyone was poor. Like you literally had to stand in line to get some bread. I mean, everything collapsed. So of course, they grew up and they didn't waste anything. Every single penny they kept, every single penny, money was gold for them. And they would they go to restaurants and then they would, take the bread, be like, oh yeah, this bread, we can eat it for dinner, and keep it here. And a lot of people, I heard a lot of stories of people, going to, taking the salt in restaurants and be like, oh, we can use this at home. And, just, a completely different way of treating money. Many people try to have a side hustle in order to make ends meet. So a lot of great words here. When you have a side hustle, when you hustle, you have like a job or a little project or something outside of your normal income, your normal job to make money. For example, a lot of people nowadays, especially in the US, they'll have their main job 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever it is. They'll have their main job. And then in the evenings, they will, drive an Uber. So they'll drive an Uber and make money driving the Uber, or they'll have an online business. They'll, drop ship, right? They'll have an Amazon store, or they'll teach, right? So for me, I used to work at a university. I was a university professor at the Academy of Science. So I taught, pretty much the best scientists in the country, but I taught them English. So it was English, but for scientists. So it was high level English, very, very high level, all PhDs. And I really didn't teach them the science, right, or economics, or, but I taught them how to communicate in the best possible way, using the best possible words, and really packaging their message. So this is what I can do for you guys. I can help you, communicate the best way. So, but I had my university job, and then I started teaching online as a side hustle, extra money. Just I had my main job and then extra money on the side. Right now, I'm fully independent, fully online. So I quit my university job and I'm on the internet full time, right? So it was my side hustle, but now it's my main business. It's okay to shell out on something you can't afford but really want, even if it means taking out a loan. So here, it's okay to shell out on something you can't afford. When you shell out on something, you spend money on something, but it hurts. You're shelling out on it. It's a lot of money, right? So you spend money and it hurts. It's painful. It's not just spending $1 here, $2 there. You're making a big investment. And you should only plan your expenses based on your disposable income without resorting to your credit card. Okay, so this is a philosophy about money. Now, of course, Generation X and even millennials and baby boomers, they lived in such good economic times that they didn't have to plan their expenses, right? They had credit cards, unlimited credit cards. Just spend whatever you have, right? Whatever, spend more than what you have. You know what? I don't have the money in the bank, but I can pay it off later. The economy will be good. No problem. I'll pay it off later. Now, that's what they did. So here, the word disposable income means the money that you have left over after you paid for your expenses, after you paid for your taxes, all of that. It's money that you have left over at the end, right? So that's the vocabulary. So great sentences, great, very advanced. So hopefully you can join us here, and you can talk and you can share your ideas and see if you agree with them or not, and of course we'll do a lot of partner work. So you'll get to talk to another advanced student. Most of my students are from Europe because I live in Europe. We have some Italians, some French, Russians, Swiss, Germans, Czechs, Slovaks, a lot of people, a lot of people, and I've had in other groups, I have Asians, and, I also have groups, for in the morning. Well, actually it's morning Europe, but evening in Asia. And they come, to my classes, and I also have South Americans. So wherever you are in the world, if you're from South America, or if you live in North America, or you are in South America, I have a class for you. Europe, Asia, Middle East, I'll take care of all of you. Okay, so you're going to talk about those. Now, we're going to talk about Generation Z, right? I talked to them a little bit. I don't want to go over too much because these podcasts are great. People love it. They love them, but I sometimes can talk for a long time. All right, so here we're Generation Z. So Generation Z, they're the ones that were born, let's say after 1997, between 1997 and 2012. Now, they are digital natives, right? So for them, it's very, very interesting because they don't trust credit cards, right? So for them, they grew up paying things online, and there's, oh yeah, on Instagram, just click on it, buy it. Amazon, I want this, clicking, buying. And then they are like, wow, I owe $10,000, $20,000, and they're just in. So the digital world really tricked them into spending a lot, and they saw what their parents, how their parents spent, and they got into a lot of trouble, you can say, digitally. So they don't trust. They are wary of credit cards, and they don't want to rack up a debt. So they don't want to, get into debt. They don't want to spend money on credit cards, and they're scared, and they're worried about digital money, right? Okay. So, some generations, not generations, the other generations, they had student loans. You know, most of my friends, we had to in America, it's very expensive to go to university. If you want to go to a good university, you're looking at least, 30,000, 40,000, maybe $50,000 a year. So it costs about, $200,000 to get a degree, right? And to get a master's degree, sometimes it's 100,000 or 150,000. Now I have a degree, and I went to master's school. I got a master's as well. Actually, I almost finished the master's. I didn't get it, but yeah, most of us, we had to, borrow a little bit of money. I got some scholarships. The government helped me. I won some prizes. My parents helped me a little bit. I also had to work. I had to work in a, and you know, in small little jobs to make extra money to pay for the small things. That's normal for us, right? Student loans. But Generation Z, they don't want to do this. They don't trust this. They think like, whoa, wow, this whole system of borrowing money to go to school, that they don't trust it, right? They know that they're going to be slaves. They're going to be stuck, right? And now a lot of them, they probably don't shun stocks, right? So a lot of them are learning right now about investing. And you can see it on TikTok, you can see it on social media, Generation Z and Millennials too, are they don't trust the system, so they are investing, right? And a lot of these Generation Z and Millennials too, they were hard hit financially by the pandemic and surging inflation. Surging means going up, right? And so then they adapted. They resorted to frugal spending, meaning they spent very little money. They started taking care of their money. Big difference from previous generations, maybe the boomers or the Generation X, where they didn't even think about money. They just spent. They had a great time spending, spending, spending. They always had a job. Life was always good, you know. So that's the stereotype. Of course, it's different depending on the country, depending on the region, depending on the socioeconomic level. But in general, that's what happened. So a lot of you know, maybe millennials, maybe Generation X also, they shell out half of their income on rent. So 50% of what they make every month goes to pay their rent. Now, in some places, this is absolutely true. Right now, they say the rule is 33%. So about a third of what you make, not more than a third, should go to rent. Right? Of course, if you can buy a home, then that's good. But right now, in a lot of parts of the US and the world and Europe, to be honest, just buying a home is way too expensive and it just doesn't make financial sense. Right? A small little house in California, we're talking about, more than a million, 2 million, 3 million for a small little house with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. That's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense, right? Now, Generation Z, they also try to save money for a rainy day and they try to invest early. So they're starting to invest. They're starting to learn about money through the internet because they want to take ownership of their finances. They want to be in control. Okay. And they also are more likely to spend money in charity shops. They're hunting for bargains, meaning they're trying to get some good deals. some secondhand shops, secondhand cars. They try to save money when they travel. They might not eat out so much, so they're really careful about how they spend money, which is, I think, is a good thing, right? And they didn't say anything about side hustles, but I know it's true, right? So they have you know they get extra jobs, so they have a normal job, and then they'll try to get a little online business here, maybe at a YouTube channel, try to get some money here. Oh, hey, try to do some drop shipping, buying and selling on the internet. You know, uh, there's a lot of ways to make money. Maybe trading crypto, trading stocks. Any way of making money. All right, so we're gonna watch this video. If you have this, then click on this right here. You can watch the video. It's a great video. It's done professionally. It's on YouTube. And they're going to talk a lot about all of this. They're going to mention Generation Z, and how they spend money. They're into frugal spending. They don't spend a lot of money. They also stuff cash in envelopes. So that's something that I was very, very surprised to hear, that they keep their money outside of the bank. And if they spend it in cash, it doesn't feel like it's real. Right? It feels like it's safe. Like they're like, oh no, I'm just going to keep this cash on the side, and if I spend it, it's no big deal. So the main money, which is the opposite from previous generations, they're, when they use the card, it didn't feel like real money because they didn't see it. It was just a number on a screen, and they're like, oh, I'll pay it later, no worries. Whereas the Generation Z, it's the opposite. It's so interesting. For them, the real money, what they really have to watch out for is the money in their bank accounts, the digital money, right? So they prefer to use cash because it feels like, they, yeah, they're more in control of their spending. They spend the cash, and then when the cash is gone, it's gone. Okay, I don't have any more money. I can go home, right? Whereas with a card, you can always spend more and spend more and spend more, and you will live to regret it. You could, if you're not in control of your spending, you just spend. One day, you're going to have some problems, right? So definitely do that. Definitely be careful with your spending and take control of your spending is very, very important. Okay. A lot of questions here. If you want to do these questions, I would recommend you go through these questions. Here we have the answers, right? And we're also going to discuss about your attitudes towards using cash. Do you prefer using cash? Do you prefer using a card to make payments? Are there any other methods of payment that you use? Talk about do you know anyone from Generation Z? How is their approach to money similar or different to what you've seen in the video? So compare what you saw in the video and what you experienced. How is your generation similar or different to Generation Z in terms of finance? Right. So if you have if you have some friends, or maybe some children, or cousins that are in Generation Z, how do they see money? And do you think their attitude towards money will change in the future? So these young people, how are they going to change? What, will they follow in the footsteps? Will they, follow in the footsteps of prior generations, and they just spend a lot of money and spend and spend and spend? Or do you think they'll be smart investors, and they will be good, smart spenders, and they'll be in control of their money? Very, very interesting. Okay. And also, what would be the consequences of using cash for everyday purchases and not keeping money in banks? Okay. So this is a big trend. A lot of people are taking their money out of the banks, out of the financial system. What could be the consequences of that? Okay. That is a big, big question, and we need to discuss it. So if you want to discuss this, come to our Zoom class. It's going to be awesome. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to speak a lot. Right? So just get in touch with me, send me a message. Let me know you want to talk to me, and I will put you into a group and we will speak English. Professional, business, top level English. All right, everyone. I will see you in class. Take care. All the best.